The call came from a probate court clerk in Chicago, not from my mother, not from my brother, not from anyone in my family, from a clerk named Patricia, who had found my contact information through the Illinois State Bar Association, and who said, with the careful neutrality of someone delivering information they were not sure I already had, Ms. Cross, we're reaching out because you are listed as primary beneficiary in the estate of Eleanor Ruth Donovan. The estate entered probate 11 days ago. Are you aware of this proceeding? I was sitting at my desk in my office at the estate law firm where I had worked for 7 years, the firm where I spent every working day handling exactly this type of call: probate proceedings, beneficiary notifications, estate distributions, the administrative machinery of what happens to a person's life after they die. Eleanor Donovan, I said. Yes, ma'am, Patricia said. Your grandmother. She passed on the 14th. We've been trying to reach you for... My grandmother, I said, passed away. A pause. 11 days ago, she said. Ms. Cross, were you not notified by the family? I looked at the wall of my office, at the framed certificate from the Illinois bar, at the photo of my law school graduation, at the small cactus on the windowsill that I had bought for myself when I made partner, because I had no one to buy it for me. No, I said, I was not notified. I see, Patricia said, with the tone of someone who has worked in probate long enough to understand exactly what that means. I'll be there tomorrow, I said. I drove to Chicago the next morning. I walked into the probate court. I introduced myself as both Vivian Cross, beneficiary, and Vivian Cross, estate attorney, and I asked for the complete file. Patricia handed me a folder that was 3 inches thick. The will was on top. My grandmother had left me everything. The house on Maple Street, where I had spent every summer until I was 22. The investment accounts, the jewelry, the contents of a safety deposit box at First National Bank that the inventory listed as personal correspondence, photographs, and documents. Everything. My brother received nothing. My mother received nothing. Near a note in the will, written in my grandmother's precise handwriting, said, My daughter Sandra and my grandson David will understand why. Vivian will understand when she reads the letters. I looked at that sentence for a long time. Then I kept reading. My name is Vivian Cross. I'm 34 years old. I am an estate attorney in the city of Springfield, Illinois. I handle other people's family secrets for a living. I had no idea I had one of my own. I need to tell you about the estrangement before I tell you about the letters, and without the estrangement, nothing that follows makes sense. My grandmother and I were close. That's the fact I need to begin with, because 12 years of being told otherwise had almost, not quite, but almost convinced me that it wasn't true. That my memory of closeness was the constructed warmth of a child who had needed an anchor and had found one in a grandmother who was simply available rather than genuinely connected. But we were close. Eleanor Ruth Donovan was the most precise person I have ever known. She kept records the way I would later learn to keep them professionally. Organized, dated, annotated, permanent. She had worked as a bookkeeper for 30 years before retiring, and she brought the same methodical attention to her personal life that she had applied to her professional one. Her kitchen was organized by category and date. Her correspondence was filed. Her finances were documented going back to 1974. She was also funny in the dry, particular way of women who had lived through things and decided that the only reasonable response was a certain wry clarity. She used to say, Vivian, the 2 most expensive things in the world are a bad lawyer and a good one. Learn to be your own. I did. Because of her, I went to law school. Because of her specific advice, specialize in something people always need and rarely understand. I chose estate law. Because of the summers I spent in her kitchen watching her balance her accounts with the focused calm of someone who believed that order was a form of respect, I became the kind of attorney who is meticulous to the point of being occasionally annoying about documentation. She made me what I am, and for the last 12 years of her life, I believed she hated me. Not my word, my mother's. My mother, Sandra Donovan Cross, had told me in the kitchen of our family home in Peoria on a Tuesday evening in November when I was 22 years old and home for Thanksgiving that my grandmother had said she was done with me. She called me today, my mother said. She's very upset with you, Viv. She says you've been cold to her. Distant. She said she reached out about Thanksgiving and you didn't respond. I hadn't received any message about Thanksgiving. I said so. My mother's expression shifted in a way I would spend 12 years interpreting and reinterpreting, a combination of something that looked like discomfort and something that looked like resolution. She says she sent you a card, my mother said, and called twice. I didn't get a card, I said, and I haven't missed any calls. I'm just telling you what she told me, my mother said. She's hurt, Vivian. She said if you're not interested in maintaining the relationship, she understands, but she's not going to keep trying. I was 22 years old. I was in my first year of law school. I was overwhelmed and exhausted and carrying $80,000 in student loans because my parents had said there was no money for tuition help. My father had been laid off. The family finances were tight. I understood. I was not in the emotional position to interrogate what my mother was telling me. I called my grandmother. She didn't answer. I left a message. She didn't call back. I called again 3 weeks later. Voicemail. I wrote a letter, an actual letter, because my grandmother preferred them because she had taught me to write them, neutrality, and sent it to the house on Maple Street. No response. I called my mother. She's still upset, my mother said. Give her time. I gave her time. The time became months. The months became a year. The year became the habit of loss, the specific way that grief for a living person calcifies into a fact you stop trying to reverse. I stopped calling. I told myself she had decided I wasn't worth the effort. I told myself that relationships end, that people change, that the closeness I had felt was perhaps one-sided, that I had been more important to myself in her life than I had been to her. I told myself these things for 12 years. I was wrong about every single one of them. The safety deposit box at First National Bank took 3 days to access, not because of legal complications. I had the death certificate, the letters testamentary, the documentation establishing me as executor and sole beneficiary. The process was clean and straightforward in the way that only happens when someone has prepared it carefully in advance. It took 3 days because of me, because I knew from the will's description what the box contained, and I needed 3 days to be ready to open it. Personal correspondence, photographs, and documents. The letters she had written me that I never received. I'm going to tell you what was in that box, but first I need to explain what I found in the 2 weeks between Patricia's phone call and the afternoon I sat down at my grandmother's kitchen table, her kitchen table, now my kitchen table. With the contents of the safety deposit box in front of me, I found the financial records. Because I am an estate attorney, and because the estate required accounting, and because my grandmother had been my grandmother, I went through her finances with the same attention I bring to every estate I handle. What I found took me 2 days of sitting at her kitchen table with her meticulously organized files and a growing stillness in my chest that was not quite shock, because I was past shock by then, but something more like the specific, cold clarity of understanding. My grandmother had been financially comfortable, not wealthy, and she had not been wealthy, but comfortable in the specific, careful way of a woman who had worked for 30 years, saved consistently, owned her home outright, and managed her money with the precision of a professional bookkeeper. The investment accounts totaled $340,000. The house on Maple Street, purchased in 1978, was worth $280,000 in the current market. The checking and savings accounts held $47,000. Total estate, approximately $667,000. What I also found, a pattern of transfers beginning in 2019 and continuing through 2024 from my grandmother's checking account to an external account. Transfers of $2,000 to $4,500 each, irregular timing, sometimes monthly, sometimes every 6 weeks. Total across 5 years, $89,000. The receiving account was not identified in my grandmother's records by name, but it was identified by routing number. I ran the routing number. Illinois Community Bank, Peoria branch. My mother's bank, $89,000, transferred from my grandmother's account to my mother's account across 5 years, with no corresponding documentation in my grandmother's files. No loan agreement, no gift records, no notation in the expense ledger that my grandmother kept for every other transaction, undocumented, unrecorded. On my grandmother's side, treated as if they didn't exist. But they existed. $89,000. I added that to what I already knew. My parents had told me there was no money for law school when I was 22. My student loans, taken out over 3 years, $87,000. I sat at my grandmother's kitchen table with these two numbers in front of me for a long time. Then I went to get the box. The box contained 47 letters, all addressed to me, all in my grandmother's handwriting. The same precise, slightly forward-leaning script she had used my entire childhood for birthday cards and recipe cards, and the notes she tucked into the care packages she sent me every year at school, until they stopped. Until November of my second year of law school, when I received the last one, opened it, read her neat script saying, "I hope your studies are going well. I am so proud of you," and then received no more. I had believed she'd stopped sending them. She had not stopped. The letters in the box were dated from November of my second year of law school through March of 2023. 11 years of letters, written at the kitchen table where I was now sitting, addressed to me, never sent to me. 47 letters. I counted them before I read them because I am a lawyer and I document before I engage. And because I knew that if I started reading without counting, I would not stop. And I needed to know what I was dealing with before I let myself feel it. 47. I made a cup of tea. I sat down. I started reading. Almon, I'm not going to read you every letter. I'm going to tell you what they contained, and then I'm going to tell you the specific letter that made everything clear. The one my grandmother had written, knowing it might be the last one, in the way that elderly people sometimes write things when they understand that time is becoming finite and the record needs to be set straight. Oh, the early letters, 2012, 2013, 2014, were the letters of a woman who believed there had been a misunderstanding. She wrote about calling me and not reaching me, about sending cards that were not acknowledged, about asking my mother what had happened and receiving explanations that didn't quite settle. She wrote, "Your mother tells me you are very busy with law school and not to take it personally. I am trying not to. But Vivian, I want you to know that I think about you every day, and I hope whatever has made things difficult between us is something we can find our way through." She wrote, "I tried the number I have for you and got a recording saying it was disconnected. Your mother says you changed your number. I asked her for the new one, and she said she would pass along my message. My number hadn't changed. Not in 2012, not in 2013, not ever. I have had the same cell phone number since I was 19 years old." The middle letters, 2015 through 2019, shifted in tone. By 2015, she had stopped asking what happened and started simply speaking to me as if we were still close, as if the letters were a conversation I would eventually join. She wrote about her garden, about the book club she had joined at the library, about the news, about the neighborhood, about the small accumulations of a life being lived with attention. She wrote, "I saw a girl with your walk today at the farmer's market, and I had to stop for a moment. I think of the summers you spent here, and they feel like the best thing I did." She wrote, "I keep your photograph on the mantle, the one from your graduation. Your mother sent it to me. You look like you. I'm so proud." And then, in a letter dated October the 2017, she wrote something that made me set down my tea. "I want to tell you something I probably should have told you years ago, and I wasn't sure it was my place. And I have since decided that leaving things unsaid is how people lose each other, so I will say it now. Your mother came to me in 2011 asking for money, a significant amount. Well, she said there were difficulties with your father's income, and they were worried about the house. I helped. She came again in 2013 and 2015. I have helped each time, Vivian, because she is my daughter, and because I believed her when she said things were hard. But I want you to know something, because I think you deserve to know it. Each time I have helped your mother, I have asked about you. Each time she has told me something different, that you are busy, that you are distant, that you have said you don't want contact, that you are happy and doing well, but prefer to keep your life separate from the family. I don't know what to believe anymore. I want you to know that I have never stopped wanting you in my life. Whatever your mother has told you about me, whatever has created this distance, it is not the truth as I know it. If you receive this letter, please call me. If you don't receive it, I don't know what to do about that. I don't know how to reach you. I love you. I always have. Grandma. I read that letter 3 times. Then I sat with it for a long time in her kitchen, in the house that was now mine, in the chair that had been hers, while the light through the window moved across the table the way it had when I was a child, doing homework here, and she was making dinner, and the world was simple and safe. And I had not yet learned that the people who are supposed to hold the people you love apart sometimes do it with their hands and sometimes do it with silence. The last letter was dated March 12th, 2023. She had written it 8 months before she died. Vivian, I am writing this one last time, and I am going to do something I should have done years ago. I am having it placed in the safety deposit box at First National with instructions that it be released to you as Part A of the estate. If you are reading this, I am gone, and I am sorry I didn't find a better way to reach you while I was still here. I want to tell you clearly what I know because you deserve clarity and because I have been too careful about this for too long. Your mother has been intercepting my correspondence to you since at least 2012. I know this because in 2019, I hired a private courier service to deliver a letter directly to your office address. I found it through the Illinois bar directory, and you did not respond. Your mother called me 2 days later, very upset, asking why I was going around her. She said you had received the letter and asked her to tell me to stop reaching out. I don't believe that. I have paid your mother, across the years, approximately $89,000 from my accounts. I did this because she asked and because she is my daughter. I am not certain this was voluntary on my part in the way that word usually means. I am not a confrontational person, but I want you to know that it happened and that the records are in this box and that I believe you will know what to do with them. And the house is yours. The accounts are yours. The jewelry is yours, including the ring your grandfather gave me, which I always intended for you. I also want you to know I am not angry at you. I was never angry at you. I spent 12 years being told you didn't want me, and I never fully believed it, and I should have trusted that more. You have your grandfather's stubbornness and my capacity for detail, and those 2 things together will serve you well for the rest of your life. I love you, Vivian. I am proud of you. I wish I had told you in person. All my love, Grandma. I folded the letter. I set it on the table. I looked out the window at the garden she had kept for 30 years. The one she had written to me about. The one I had never seen as an adult. The one that was now overgrown slightly at the edges in the way of gardens that have been tended by hands that are no longer there. I sat in that kitchen for 2 hours. I did not cry. Not yet. I am an estate attorney. I had a case to build. My mother called me that evening. She had found out through my brother, David, who had found out through the probate court notification that I had appeared at the courthouse and accessed the estate file. Vivian, she said, I've been trying to reach you. I know, I said. Are you in Chicago? I am. We should talk, she said. There are things about Grandma's situation that are complicated, and I want to explain. Mom, I said. Yes? I've read the letters, I said. The line went very quiet. What letters? She said. The specific thing about working in estate law for 7 years is that you develop a precise understanding of when someone is lying. Not because lawyers are uniquely perceptive, but because estate disputes are, at their core, disputes about what people say they were told and what they were actually told. And you spend years learning to read the gap between those 2 things. The gap in my mother's voice in that pause was vast. The 47 letters, I said, written from 2012 to 2023, stored in the safety deposit box at First National with instructions that they be released to me as part of the estate. Another silence. She told you, my mother started. She told me everything, I said, in writing, dated and documented, the way she documented everything. Vivian, it's more complicated than however she The $89,000, I said. Silence. The transfers from her checking account to your account at the Peoria branch, I said. Monthly to every 6 weeks, 2019 through 2024. Undocumented on her side. No loan agreement, no gift documentation. She offered, Mom, I said, I'm an estate attorney. I know what documentation looks like, and I know what the absence of it looks like. I know what voluntary looks like, and I know what pressure looks like. And I know that the year the transfer started, 2019, is the same year she wrote me a letter saying she'd finally found my office address and was going to try to reach me directly. Why, and you called her 2 days after the courier delivered it. The line was silent. I have her phone record, Bonnie said. The estate includes phone records. You called her on October 19th, 2019 at 11:43 in the morning, 2 days after the courier delivery date. Vivian, and I have my student loan records, I said, from 2011 and 2012. The years you told me there was no money for tuition. The years the transfers to your account from her account were, not yet. The transfers started in 2019. So where did the previous money go? What was she helping with in 2011 and 2013 and 2015 that required you to keep me away from her? Silence for a very long time. I need to think, my mother said. I understand, I said. Hey, can we meet? I'll be in contact through my attorney, I said. You're not my attorney anymore, she said. I'm not your attorney, I said. I'm the executor of my grandmother's estate and the sole beneficiary. Those are the capacities in which I'll be in contact. I hung up. I sat in my grandmother's kitchen. Outside, the garden held the specific gray-blue of a Chicago evening in late autumn, the sky the color of old pewter, the light flattening everything into a kind of silver stillness. I thought about being 22 years old and standing in my parents' kitchen while my mother told me my grandmother was done with me. I thought about calling and leaving messages that went unreturned. I thought about stopping, about the specific defeat of deciding that a person you love has decided not to love you back. I thought about 47 letters in a safety deposit box, about a woman sitting at this kitchen table, writing to someone who was never going to receive the words, because the person who should have delivered them had calculated that silence was worth more than connection. I opened my laptop. I pulled up the estate file. I began building the accounting of what had been taken. My brother called at 9 p.m. David is 3 years older than me, which makes him 37, which makes him old enough to have been present for all of it and to have made choices about what he did with what he knew. I'd been thinking about David for 2 days. Viv, he said. David, I said. I heard you found the letters, he said. I did, I said. How are you? And did you know? I said. A pause. Know what specifically? He said. That she was writing to me, I said. That the letters weren't reaching me, that Mom had intercepted them. I didn't know about the letters, specifically, he said slowly, in the specific way of someone measuring each word. I knew that Grandma thought something was off. She mentioned to me a few times that she wasn't sure you were getting her messages. And you didn't tell me, I said. I assumed Mom was handling it, he said. You assumed Mom was handling it, I repeated. He was quiet. David, I said, I want to ask you something and I need you to answer honestly. Okay, he said. Did you stay close with Grandma while I was estranged? Yes, he said. Did she ever ask you to help her reach me? A longer pause. Once, he said. Maybe 2016 or 2017. She asked if I had your current address. I gave it to her. And did Mom know you gave it to her? The longest pause. Mom asked me later if Grandma had talked to me about you, he said. And I said yes, and she wasn't happy about it? She wasn't happy, I said. She said Grandma was confused about some things and was going to upset you, and she was trying to manage it, he said. She was trying to manage it, I said. Viv, the address you gave her, I said. Did she ever write to it? I don't know, he said. I assumed. I never received anything at that address, I said. Not one letter, not one card. He was very quiet. I gave her the address, he said very quietly. I thought she would write to you. She wrote 47 letters, I said. None of them reached me. The line was silent for a long time. Viv, he said. I'm sorry, I genuinely didn't know the full picture. I believe you didn't know the full picture, I said. I don't think you're the architect of this. But David, she asked you for help once, and you gave her an address, and when Mom expressed displeasure about that, You deferred to Mom's version of events and stopped asking questions. Yes, he said. That's fair.
The estate goes entirely to me, I said. You know that.
I know, he said. She told me that a few years ago. She said she wanted me to understand her reasoning before she was gone. Did you understand it? I said. A pause. I'm starting to, he said. I believed him. David is not a bad person. David is the person who, when presented with a choice between asking a hard question and accepting a comfortable answer, consistently chose comfort. That is not malice. That is the quiet collaboration of someone who benefits from a system enough to not look too hard at what makes it run. He will have to live with that. We talked for another 20 minutes. By the end, he had told me everything he knew, which was less than I had feared and more than he had realized he knew. I thanked him. I told him I would be in touch as the estate proceedings advanced. I went to bed in my grandmother's bedroom in the house on Maple Street, and I slept for 9 hours for the first time in 2 weeks. The meeting with my mother happened 3 weeks later, not at the house on Maple Street. I wasn't ready for that. At a conference room at my attorney's office in Springfield, which is how I do things now, with a professional in the room, with everything on record, with my personal feelings separated from the legal process by the specific structure that the legal process provides. My mother came with a family lawyer named Howard Bates, who was competent and careful, and who had clearly told her to say as little as possible. She looked smaller than I remembered, not physically. She's the same height, the same shape. But the specific largeness that had always characterized my mother, the authority of the person who controls the narrative, who defines the terms, who determines what is known and what is managed, that was gone. What remained was a woman who understood that the information had changed hands. Vivian, she said. Sandra, I said. Howard Bates gave me a look that I understood. We were being professional and formal, and that was the right choice. I want to start with the correspondence, I said. My attorney, Renata Singh, slid copies of selected letters across the table. These are letters written by Eleanor Donovan to my client between 2012 and 2023, Renata said. Stored in a safety deposit box with instructions for release to my client as part of the estate. We have 47 in total. We'll be submitting copies to the probate court as part of the estate documentation. My mother looked at the letters. There's also the matter of the financial transfers, Renata said. She slid a second set of documents. Between 2019 and 2024, approximately $89,000 was transferred from Eleanor Donovan's checking account to an account held by Sandra Cross at First National Peoria. These transfers are undocumented in Ms. Donovan's estate records. No loan agreements, no gift documentation, no acknowledgement in her financial records. Howard Bates was reviewing the documents carefully. Our position, Renata continued, is that the pattern of transfers in the context of the documented correspondence suppression is relevant to the estate proceeding and to potential claims arising from it. These were gifts, my mother said. Howard Bates put a hand on her arm. Sandra, he said quietly. They were gifts, she said again, looking at me rather than him. Your grandmother wanted to help. She offered. The letters document a different picture, I said, particularly from 2017 onward, when she describes uncertainty about whether the transfers were entirely voluntary. She was getting older. She was 78 and fully competent when she wrote the 2023 letter, I said. The probate court has reviewed her medical records. Her capacity was not in question. My mother looked at the table. Mom, I said. She looked up. I need to ask you something directly, I said, and I'd like you to answer it directly. Not for the legal record. I'll get what I need from the legal record. I'm asking as your daughter. She nodded. Why? I said. Not the whole architecture. I understand the architecture. The transfers, the intercepted letters, the narrative about her being upset with me. I understand how it worked. What I want to know is why you started it. What happened in 2011 that made you decide to cut me off from her? A very long silence. Howard Bates was watching her carefully. She found out about the money, my mother said finally. What money? I said. The money from your grandfather's insurance policy, she said. When he died in 2009, there was a policy, She didn't know about it for 2 years. And when she found out, she asked me about it. I looked at her. What was the policy for? I said. My mother's eyes were on the table. The policy was for your education, she said. Your grandfather had taken it out when you were born. It was specifically for your college and graduate school. I looked at her for a long time. How much? I said. She didn't answer. Mom, how much? $110,000, she said. I thought about my student loans. $87,000 across 3 years. 3 years of working 20 hours a week while taking a full law school course load. The specific exhaustion of building something with no foundation, starting from zero, watching other students whose families had provided them with the specific invisible infrastructure of parental financial support, and telling yourself it didn't matter, and it did matter, and you were fine, and you were tired. And she was going to tell you, my mother said. In 2011, she found out about the policy, and she was going to tell you. I told her. I told her that you knew, that I had told you, that you had agreed, that we needed the money for family expenses, and you wanted to help. I was 19 when Grandpa died, I said. I didn't know anything about a policy. I know, she said. You told her I had agreed, I said. I needed her to believe the family version, she said. And when she didn't fully believe it, I said, she kept asking questions, my mother said. She was like you. She didn't let things go. So you created distance, I said. You used me as the wedge. You told her I was pulling away, and you told me she was angry, and you kept us apart long enough that the questions became background noise. She didn't deny it. And the $89,000, I said. A pause. By 2019, she had figured out more than I realized, my mother said. She confronted me about it. I told her I would pay it back, that we could work it out, that if she said anything to you, it would destroy the family. So the transfers, I said, were her way of... My mother started again. She said if I was going to take it, I should at least be honest about taking it. So she transferred it with records she could leave for you. I looked at my mother. I thought about my grandmother sitting at her kitchen table. An 80-year-old woman, finally done with negotiating with someone who had been using silence as leverage, deciding to document everything, to build a record, to leave a trail for the one person she knew would read it right. She had known I would come. She had made sure I would find what I needed when I did. She set you up, I said. My mother looked at the table. Yes, she said. I think she did. The estate proceeding concluded 4 months after Patricia's phone call. The house on Maple Street is mine. The investment accounts are mine. The ring from my grandfather, a narrow gold band with a small sapphire, is on my right hand. The $89,000 in undocumented transfers was addressed through a formal clawback proceeding. My mother's attorney and mine reached an agreement. Structured repayment into the estate over 5 years, documented with interest. It will not replace 12 years. It will not replace the summers I didn't spend at the kitchen table on Maple Street while my grandmother grew older and tended her garden and wrote letters she couldn't send. It will not replace the version of myself that might have been shaped by continuing contact with the most precise and honest person I have known. By another decade of Vivian, learn to be your own lawyer, and numbers don't move. People do. And the particular grounding of a relationship that was not conditional on anything except showing up. But the record is accurate now. The accounting is complete. The estate says what it says, and what it says is that my grandmother knew exactly what she was doing and did it with her characteristic attention to detail and her characteristic love, which was the love of someone who trusted you enough to leave you the tools to find the truth yourself, rather than trying to deliver it to you in a form that could be intercepted. My mother and I have not spoken since the conference room, not because I have formally ended things, because she has not called. I have thought about what I would say if she did. I have rehearsed it in the way that you rehearse things you know are coming, sitting at a kitchen table that used to be someone else's, in a house that holds the specific warmth of a person who loved you carefully for 12 years in complete silence. Complete. I don't know what I would say. I know what I know. I know what the letters say. I know what the accounting shows. I know that my grandmother died 11 days before I was notified, and that 11 days is how long it took a probate court clerk named Patricia to find me in a bar directory, and that in those 11 days, the people who knew, my mother, my brother, the extended network of family that had known for years that something was managed and had not asked what was being managed, none of them picked up a phone. I know that. I'm working on what to do with it. My grandmother left me one more thing that wasn't in the box. I found it on the last day when I was going through the house on Maple Street to make an inventory, like the kind of thorough room by room documentation that I do professionally and that I applied to her house with the same attention because she would have wanted that, because the attention is the tribute. In the second drawer of the desk in her small office, underneath a folder of utility records, was a single index card, her handwriting, dated 6 weeks before she died. It said, "The ring is in the jewelry box, top shelf, velvet pouch. The passwords to the accounts are in the green folder. The attorney's number is on the refrigerator. The cactus in the window needs water every 2 weeks. Not more. It does better with less. Vivian will know what to do with everything else." I stood in her office for a long time. Then I went to the window. The cactus was still there. Small, a little dry. I filled a glass of water and gave it exactly what it needed. Not more. It does better with less. I put the index card in my wallet. I turned off the light. I locked the door behind me. Worse, if you've stayed with me through all of this, if this story has landed somewhere real for you, I want to hear from you. Have you ever had a relationship taken from you not by the other person, but by someone standing between you? Have you ever found out that the silence you were handed was manufactured? Have you ever read a letter that was written for you years ago and understood in the reading exactly how much you had been protected from knowing? Leave me a comment. Tell me where you are in the world. Tell me what you're sitting with. I read every word. My name is Vivian Cross. I'm an estate attorney. I handle other people's family secrets for a living. Now I know my own. Subscribe for new stories every week.